G'day gentlemen, thanks for joining once again. I remember watching Terminator 2 Judgment Day as I know many of you have watched it. I really liked that movie when I was younger. Scene in that movie, many scenes in that movie, but one specific scene that I can't forget is that scene where the nuclear bomb goes off, which is a dramatic scene, scary, shocking. Something that whenever I think about the movie, I always think about that scene. Sort of caused these ugly butterflies in my stomach, a type of anxiety, even though it may have been a momentary one. This ugly feeling inside of horror, death, negativity, a feeling that creates a bitter taste in your mouth. Now, after the breakup, after the mother of my children had left, once I started to get myself together, it's not like I was really together, but once I did manage to get myself up and start pursuing what I needed to, via so-called administration, I went to the family court. It was a place alien to me. I didn't ever think that I'd end up there. It never even crossed my mind. I never even had heard of the family court up until that point in my life. I noticed all the people that worked there were females. There was a lady there that would carry a folder around, taking notes down, and pretty much if you had any question to ask, you'd ask her, and she'd pretty much guide you to the right room or to the right space where you'd have to wait to speak to someone, whether it be about filling a form or asking questions that she couldn't respond to. And that's where I sort of said, look, I needed to speak to someone that could do something about it. I ended up speaking to this other lady who was obviously in a higher position, and I remember explaining to her the dramatic, pretty much how my situation was an emergency and that my children really needed help. She was emotionless. I thought I would get some sort of help out of her. Told her that I had all the incriminating evidence that she would never need or want to be convinced, and that didn't really make much of a difference. She gave me a few forms, affidavits and other forms as such that I had to fill out. It was a time where I was crying. I was crying, and it was really hard. It was very, very difficult. I'll never forget this specific moment where, as I was waiting, one of the doors from a courtroom had opened and a man had rushed out, literally rushed out, chest out, hands and arms sort of back, in total frustration. He was crying, eyes wide open. He was European. And I'm like, where the hell am I? Am I just living a nightmare? It's not real. Maybe I'll wake up and, it's just a bad dream. I had my friend with me, and my friend was there who is single, who was single. Some of my friends know him in the MGTOW sphere, know him as Big Ears. Paul Wilson's friend, Crypto knows him. A few other boys in the MGTOW sphere, in the manosphere, they know of him, and he's really supported me along the way. It would have been about a month later. I was going up to the ATM machine, a local ATM machine, to pull out some money. I saw an old school friend of mine whose name is Corey, and he saw me, he remembered me, he asked me how I've been, and I pretty much told him what I'm going through. He started crying. He literally, I was sort of set aback. He started crying, he hugged me, and he told me how hard it is. He's felt this type of pain before, and he was really, really sad. He spoke to me for a good hour and a half. I think he was concerned about my welfare, and I'll never forget that. The compassion, the emotion, the love that men have towards one another when they can empathize with one another. As men, we have problems sympathizing and projecting our emotions to other men. But when that men actually empathize and sympathize, project it back to one another, it's just magic. Money can't purchase this type of moment. He gave me his contact number and asked me, he pretty much explained to me that if I ever needed anything, just to give him a call. And he's actually a local, so if I needed anything, we could manage to have a chat. When I'd visit my children at the contact centre for 2 hours every fortnight, supervised, my specific time was around midday. Now, it played a role in the faces that I would see. So I would see these faces all the time because they were pretty much on the same timetable as I was. Fortnight in, fortnight out, and so forth. I would pretty much see the same people. And I got to know some men that had been going through and have been going through what I've been going through. It's like I knew a secret, something that I really wanted to pass on to them, which is MGTOW, men going their own way. I wanted to help these men to become more resilient, to be able to cope, to be able to survive. This is war. We're in the trenches, we're being shot at, you've got howitzers just blazing at you all the time. Society made up of manginas and white knights and feminists and females, whether they're using shaming strategy, whether they're using controlling legislation to put you down. This is a war. I have a secret, and at the time I had a secret. I was dying to just reach out to these men, and you can't right there and then, because if you do, there'll be repercussions, and that's due to the fact that you're being supervised. 90% of the time that I was supervised, actually it would have been a bit more, was by females. Now, on one occasion I was able to, actually 2 occasions, I was able to give a gentleman a lift back, because he was coming from so far away. If he was to, he didn't have a car, but when he would catch the train, it would take him about 2 hours to get to Sydney from where he was coming from. And to get to the contact centre, another half an hour. So all in all, about 2.5 hours. And I'd give him a lift back to shorten his distance and time. And this gentleman had rocked up to the contact centre pretty recently as compared to my experience. So he's probably been in the contact centre now for about 2 months. When I was taking him back, he opened up, and we both opened up to each other, and he pretty much started crying, pulling his eyes out, telling me about how the mother of his kids sexually abuses his son. He explained to me exactly what she does. Also explained to me how she would punish him by leaving him in the laundry in very hot weather. When she would feed him, she would give him food, force him to eat whilst in the laundry. And he has these hopes of this new lawyer that's going to help him do more for this matter, and there'll be more progress and what have you. But men don't cry. Men don't cry. We don't cry. We're there in the contact centre and we're strong. Keep our head up, our chin up. Our eyes don't get watery. Tears don't roll down our cheeks. We're male. His son is actually a young teenager. He knows what's going on. But there are forces in play that he's actually got a daughter as well, who's around 8. But his son is very well aware of what the mother's doing, and he's just got so much fear from his mum. He talks to me, believe it or not, and I can see what's going on very clearly. Now, my timetable got changed very, very recently from pretty much a midday time schedule where I'd see my kids to now where I pick up my kids at a much more earlier time. I saw new faces. Different men. But this time I saw more men. Whereas I'd usually see 3, at the max I'd see 4. This time I saw either 5 or 6 men there, waiting, depressed, stressed, and it reminded me of that scene from Terminator 2, Judgment Day. It's like slow motion, walking in that room, and they're gentlemen, saying hello and putting their heads back down. Their backs are not straight, pretty much hunched, zombified, and you get that ugly feeling in your stomach again, that momentary anxiety. You could see and read the suffering of these men just by looking at them. They're dying. They're getting shot at every single day, every moment. They're getting shot at by society, this gynocentric system, this system that we use by implementing legislation. I'm sure these men don't cry. They don't cry. They're very strong. I mean, they'll be okay. They're all right. They're big. They're men. They're there. They made it. Which reminds me of a caller that once, a female that was being interviewed on either it was 2UE or 2GB in relation to books and men that are authors. Now, when she was being interviewed by a man who was the host of the program. She was saying that we need to stop promoting these male authors because they'll be okay. They'll be all right. And the male host was saying, do you realize what you're saying? Do you realize that you're trying to promote something that is not really of a better quality or a better substance, just for the sake of changing dynamics, and that's it? And that wouldn't sink through her thick head. And she would always get back to her statement of, but they'll be okay. They'll be all right. So she's trying to say if they don't make $1 million or $2 million a year, they'll still be okay. These females should be able to now have the limelight put on them. Let them make $1 million or $2 million a year. And these males should just move to the side because they'll be okay. This is war. This is war against men. We are men. But at the same time, we're boys at heart. We want to do things. We want to live. We want to be happy. We want to try and make others happy as well. We love life. We have feelings. Deep down inside, even though we go to war, we talk about war, and yes, I understand that this is a part of history. But deep down inside, we hate seeing other men suffer. There's been times of war where Christmas has come in and men would just stop and have a game of soccer and pretty much have fun. Forget about war. Because deep down inside, men actually do love one another. Men don't want to see another man fail because they know that other man failing can be him. Deep down inside. Yeah, I understand that we always also talk about it, and there's a lot of truth to it, that we would throw another man under the bus whilst we pursue pussy or vagina or another female. Ultimately, if you care for yourself, you care for other men, and vice versa. I was able to get my children for a few hours and actually take them away from the contact centre for the very first time, unsupervised. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. It was great. A bit of freedom for them, for myself, for us. It was the first time I saw how much of an impact that this separation has had on my children. My son has very, very little self-confidence. He's very fragile. I mean, he's only 4, he's turning 5, but he's very, very fragile. He would ask me if he could play, because I purchased him a PlayStation game, if he'd come to my house and play. He's never seen my house for at least 2 years. I don't think he can remember where I live. But he would ask me that if we could play that game at my house. Dad, can we go to your house to play this game? Because, I mean, at the contact centre, I would sit there and he'd tell me, Dad, which car do you want me to pick? Do you want me to pick this car? Or should I pick this car? This is another game altogether. And I'd like, oh, this car here is really nice. Yeah, but Dad, I like the blue one. Yeah, well, Dad, you go for that blue one. That's nice. Which wheel should I pick? And it's real between my son and myself. It's real. There's reciprocity. And I sit there and actually interact with my son. Now, when I explained to him that I couldn't do that yet, and hopefully later on in the near future we'd be able to play games together at my home, his home, and what have you, because my home is his home, pretty much. It wasn't good enough for him, and he just sighed and looked down. I wish there was more I can do, but obviously there isn't, except for giving him some vocal, moral support. My daughter is also pretty much on the same level. She's very fragile. She was very scared of a mascot. She's the older one. She's a couple of years older than him. And she actually had to see the mascot that was bringing out her gifts just the other day. She had to see who was dressed up in the mascot so that she wouldn't have fear. She actually grabbed onto my leg, then asked me to hold her. I held her up, and she she squeezed the living daylights out of me. I don't know if that's normal. I don't think it's normal. My nieces and nephews don't have any problems looking at mascots, talking to mascots. I mean, I'm not only breaking it down to a mascot. There was a lot of other things that make me know and realise that my kids need psychotherapy, and this system's just not good enough. How many kids out there are in this situation, in this predicament? How many boys like my son are going to end up in this situation that us men are in? It's sickening. This is not good enough. Is this the year 2015? My daughter, pretty much, she goes to school. My son doesn't go to school. She was telling me on the way back when I had to drop him off that my brother's got a friend, and I'm like, what's his name? And she told me his name, and she told me his name was Gabby. Gabby is his name, and I'm like, okay, how old is Gabby? And Gabby is 4 years old. And my daughter said, but he's an invisible friend. And I said, oh, okay. And I looked at my son and I said, that's okay. I mean, where is he now? And my son said, he's in the car. He's in the car with us. My son is lonely. My son is lonely. I know it's a coping mechanism, and he'll grow up. But these things are going to impact their lives long term. These issues that are being allowed to perpetuate via this pathetic thing that we call a system, a family court system. This isn't a family court process. This is the dark ages. It's beyond sick. I cry a lot. Sometimes I'll be listening to a song that'll make me cry. It reminds me of my kids. And I was watching a video of Shining Light. Shining Light was talking about how when he listens to music, it reminds him of his daughter. Because these songs are written, they're directed at your partner. But when you listen to them as a father, especially in these type of circumstances, you somehow can only relate to the song by connecting the dots in a different way. So when I listen to a song, for example, you are the sun, you are the light, you are my angel, it would be my kids. And men cry when we listen to these songs. I'm not going to speak for other men, but I know you cry. We have feelings, we have emotions, but men don't cry.